Hi, this is Nate House. I am on Navajo Nation.
Hi, I'm David.
I wanted to interview you because I think you've been through a lot of transformation.
It's pretty much just one big transformation, I guess. So I was diagnosed with MS in 2005. Yeah, 2006. And I was very sick. It really was hard. Yeah, I gained a lot of weight. I was on a lot of different, medications, injections, just all kinds of stuff. I was always sick.
Was it painful?
Extremely. Like every day it was a new challenge of pain. I guess I tell people the easiest way to describe it is to imagine being electrocuted while you're on fire. A lot of days. It's really bad. Just, yeah, tough.
That's
Very
That doesn't
tough.
sound like a good time at all,
Yeah.
actually.
No, it wasn't good. Yeah, I was deemed disabled by the veterans. I get benefits from the military. They pretty much said if I worked, I would lose the benefits and all of that because I was deemed disabled. So I was considered a disabled veteran, not disabled due to, my military service, but a disabled veteran either way. So I read a book. It was called the MS Recovery Diet. And so it really talked about the 5 common food triggers in foods, allergy-based mostly, that things that most people are allergic to and don't even realize. Dairy was one of them. There were 5 different triggers. I can't even remember them, but it was like dairy, gluten, eggs, pretty much mostly animal-based products, but legumes and gluten was on there also. So I took all 5 of them out and then reintroduced them one at a time. And I'm really a science nerd, so I really wanted to try it kind of in that good old science faction. I didn't cheat. I really took them out and then reintroduced them, 3 weeks later each, one. And then I would see how the effects were on my body, and it was almost like I would have an allergic reaction as soon as I would eat it. And those were the ones that I took out. And immediately dairy was the big one that I knew. I took out dairy out of my diet, found that I was lactose intolerant. So that was kind of my first science experiment with diet. And then there was a Baha'i who came out here. So she was a nutritionist, and she came out and just did this whole thing about lemon water and, eating vegetables. And I was a full meat eater, and I still ate cheese a lot, And so she kind of inspired me to try some new things, and lemon water being one of them, and bee pollen for some reason, which I'm a vegan who cheats with bee pollen. So just to everyone out there, I do use bee pollen. But yeah, so I started kind of tweaking my diet and wanting to do kind of an experiment on myself. I was pretty much using myself as my own science experiment of trying to get healthy. And I was taking these injections. I had gone through, for multiple sclerosis, they have this 3 injection system, and it's called the ABC drug. So you start with C, Copaxone. And that one you take every day. And it's the least invasive, they say, or the least to deal with. It's kind of the easiest. So you usually start with Copaxone. So I started with that. I did that for, something like 3 years. So I don't know how many, you do the math, 365 shots times 3 years. Was how many shots I gave myself pretty much on that one. And I couldn't stand it. I was always kind of sick. It was just waiting to do the next shot. And it was very painful in the area where I did the shot. So I didn't like it. I hate needles. I don't like shots. It's terrible. I had moved from C. My MS was getting worse. It was progressing. I was getting sicker. I was actually in the hospital more. I was, having really bad just pain, just unbelievable. They were shooting me up crazy with morphine. I mean, I've had the shot that they give pregnant women who are in labor that numbs your entire back down from my lower half, because it felt like my legs were boiling in lava. It was just terrible. So they would give me this shot. I can't remember. I'm familiar with an epidural. I've had that. I remember not having any control of my bodily functions or anything. It was pretty terrible. And I was in my 20s at that point, still in my maybe late 20s. And then it started progressing. My disease was getting worse. Every now and then it would shut off a body part. Probably 2 or 3 weeks where my right leg just shut off. I couldn't figure it out. I was walking with a cane and my leg just stopped working. And it took about 3 weeks till it came back. It felt like when your leg's waking up, when your foot falls asleep, it felt like that for about 2 weeks. It was terrible. So that was no fun. It would just randomly shut off things. I would fall down all the time. I had no balance. Almost not incontinent, but I would have to like go immediately when it happened. That kind of thing. Just, not what you would want at 28 years old or so.
No.
I remember them telling me also that all of the opiates I was on had, just destroyed a lot of my liver function. I said I'd probably be in dialysis before I hit my 40s. I'd probably be in my 30s doing dialysis. They moved me to B, which was beta seron, the second in the stage of MS drugs, once every week, something like that. No, once every 3 days. That one I was on for a very short time. It didn't work at all for me. It made things worse pretty fast. I realized that one wasn't working. I only did that one for probably a couple months, and they had seen another regression, or progression of my disease. This whole time I was getting MRIs. Every 6 months I would have a new MRI where they were tracking the lesions in my brain, showing me on MRIs the cuts in the neurons in the signals, the neurons in your brain. It actually tears the myelin, and it's kind of like making an electric cord if you shaved it a little bit and it was leaking out electricity, but it's doing that in your brain, and so it's sending pain signals through your body. It's kind of the way I understand it. I read about it a lot and tried to figure it out. Neurology is not easy to understand, especially books on neurology. It's extremely difficult. So I did what I could studying. I'm a pretty smart guy, well-read. I thought I could, I got tired of it. They put me onto the biggest one, and that's the A, which was Avonex. And that was the last stage of the drugs I was on, and it was the most aggressive. It's a cocktail shot. I think it's mixed with steroids, all kinds of other stuff. I was on something like 14 different types of painkillers. I was on meloxicam for arthritis. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, asthma. All of these things were all new. I had never had anything. I was healthy my entire life. Then I was told I had, severe arthritis. I had, really bad, I had to use a rescue inhaler to breathe. I gained something around 80 pounds or so. No, 60 pounds. I was really unhealthy. It was hard to walk. I was about 250 pounds, and I couldn't take it anymore. I was just sick all the time. And I remember I was teaching my 5-year-old son, I was teaching him to give me shots because my dexterity had gotten so bad. I would miss and hit the bone sometimes, or I would hit a nerve. I hit my sciatic nerve one time in my back with a needle and pierced it, and that was about 2 months of pain in that area. Just unbelievable pain, like fire in my back. It's unbelievable. I was on lots of painkillers. They had me on opiates. I was taking Percocet, but it's something like I was overusing them because I was in a lot of pain. I was told I should take 2 to 3 a day. I was taking about 4 at a time, just handfuls of them, like 4 at a time. It seemed like every 4 hours or so. I would wake up and kind of come out of whatever days, and I'd feel this pain again, and I'd just pop more and try to fall back asleep. So that was all my day consisted of, trying to get by with the pain and not die, but wanting to die the whole time. Just didn't give up. I couldn't take it. And at that point, I just, I told Nani, I came in one day, and I was really sick, and I had had a dream, and it was a very lucid dream, where my grandfather had told me he passed on many years ago. He told me in my dream that my drugs were killing me, and stop taking them. Just don't take these drugs anymore. They're killing you. So I woke up and I just told Nani, I was like, I'm done. I had put everything in this box, and it was a pretty good sized box. I'd filled with all my medication, probably I think something like $30,000 worth of different medicines. I kind of added everything up and saw their little list. I told the VA I wasn't going to take the medicine anymore. They actually told me, for a minute, they kind of were saying that they were going to pull my benefits if I stopped taking all the drugs. And I told them, I was like, it's costing you guys some $30,000 a year, over $30,000 a year. I'm costing you nothing if I stop taking them. Like, why would that matter? So that was a pretty good argument. At that point, they were like, okay, it's pretty much all right. And that was 3 years ago. So I haven't been to a doctor since. I've lost 70 plus pounds, and I've become a, yoga instructor, certified yoga instructor. I run.
So 3 years ago, you had this dream, and then what changed? Like,
I threw away all my drugs. and that was hard. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. There's people, you know, that die doing that very same thing, but at that point I didn't care anymore. It was swallow a bullet or die this way, you know, I didn't care. So I stopped taking all the drugs, and then I looked at, there's writings, Baha'i writings that talk about food is medicine, that food, one day food will be our medicine. And so I really was thinking about like the science of it, you know, ancient people, they lived, and these diseases, you know, they lived many years, and these diseases weren't harming them. So I started to feel like these diseases might have been from my diet. You know, maybe they weren't helping, whatever it was. I just felt like I could maybe figure it out through my diet. And it was funny, but at first I thought, oh, this is BS, you know, I'm jumping on this rainbow train or whatever, you know, it's like I'm going to turn hippie and die, you know. I had this fear in the back of my head, you know, because when you grow up going to the doctor all the time, you think like you need that to live. And so I remember my family being very upset. Like when I told my mom and everybody that I was just going off of all my meds and I wasn't going to do it anymore, they were very afraid. They thought I was going to die. You know, they for sure, they'd be like, oh my God, you're not going to live 6 months, you know. And 3 years later, I mean, they're just like, what? You're healthier than you were in your 20s. And
So what did you change with your diet?
I went full vegan. I went plant-based diet. I shouldn't
Okay.
say vegan, but plant-based.
Okay.
You know, and just a lot of raw plant-based. I started looking at gut health because the first thing I was told that I should really look into is I was diagnosed with leaky gut. So I think leaky gut is where you're just not absorbing the nutrients from your food. And so, or something. I mean, I don't know the science of it. I'm not a doctor, but so I knew it had something to do with I wasn't getting the nutrition out of my food. And I wasn't eating healthy food anyway, so it was really making me sick. I had gained a bunch of weight and I just wasn't getting the nutrition. I wanted to reverse that, so I started looking into kombucha. The one thing with being lactose intolerant is everybody says, oh, well, eat these yogurts that will, you know, probiotics. So
Yeah.
they're like, eat these probiotic yogurts, they'll help. And I was like, but I'm lactose intolerant.
That's not the right one.
Not the one I want. But I found out these same, you know, enzymes and microbes were in kombucha.
Okay.
And then I found out you can make kombucha yourself. And so I'm all about like saving money, like trying not to spend lots of money. And I didn't want to pay $5 for store-bought kombuchas. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And they taste terrible. So I started making my own kombucha. I actually still to this day make my own kombucha. And that's got the bacillus microbe in it, which is really good. It's kind of like what's in penicillin, lots of other, lots of, you know, things. So I started taking that, and I realized immediately the bloating, a lot of my bloating went away, and I felt full when I ate my food. It was really weird, but I could feel full from veggies. I didn't think, you know, I'm a steak and potatoes eater through and through my whole life, and I didn't think I was gonna ever be full. But if I tell people, the funny thing is, if you've never been as full as you are if you try to eat 4 apples in a row, you can't do it. Like physically, you will feel like you're filled with a brick. So I was like, the fiber's there. I just need the fiber in my body. And once I learned that, I really started getting, you know, making the calories that I ate count by eating extremely healthy, just raw. I ate like an athlete. You know, I had a massive mound of veggies and just smash it. They talk about being in charge of your own health care a lot in the VA. I think a lot of veterans started standing up for, you know, being in charge of what they do. So I really started thinking about being in charge of my health. And, you know, I was like, why am I going to go and talk to a doctor who's never been to a nutritional class, doesn't know anything about food? Really, a lot of them do an hour in a classroom, or not even that, studying nutrition. Unless it's a personal hobby, they're not required, you know, to become a doctor. You don't have to know anything about nutrition at all, you know? So once I found that out, I started really looking into helping myself and just eating the right food, getting all my veggies. I had been to one yoga class that the VA made me go to. I remember there was one for PTSD veterans.
Okay.
And so it was a breathing and yoga class. And I enjoyed it. You know, I had nothing against yoga, but I thought, honestly, I was that man that thought it was a women's thing. You know, I was like, oh, it's for women to get bendy. You know, this is really what I thought. I didn't realize anything until I became, you know, a yoga instructor, that you could actually get very strong doing a lot of, you know, poses that I do now. I mean, I do a lot of really hard yoga. I've, you know, pretty much reversed my body type from being very overweight to, you know, healthy and strong.
That's amazing.
And yoga, the breathing helped a lot also with the pain, and, you know, to come off of all of the opiates, I did use medicinal marijuana. And that's the one thing that I did to get off, to kick all of the hard opiates. because I don't think coming off of it, I could have dealt with all the pain. That took the edge off of the pain. And it, I had a card, everything was, I did it all legally. But that's the thing, is the VA wouldn't condone it, or, I couldn't even tell them that I was using that, so in risk of losing my benefits or those type of things. So that was the only thing is I used to kind of buffer the pain while I was getting healthier. And it's gotten now to where I can use CBDs and other things that are, a lot easier and legal. There's no effect from it whatsoever.
So are we in a state now where you're allowed to have those things?
The state of Arizona, yeah.
Yeah,
I do have
okay.
a card for the state of Arizona.
Yeah. Here you are, you're healthy, you look different, you're fit, you're feeling better. We can't even believe that that's possible.
I know I would have punched myself in the face when I was at my worst, and someone would have told me eating veggies and doing yoga would change my life. I wasn't ready to hear that.
Yeah.
I had to look at the science of it and really start understanding that, just trying new things, especially yoga. I remember at first, I was a power lifter in the military. And I laughed at yoga. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was pointless, And so, and it's funny because I always, even as a powerlifter, I was never a runner. Like I couldn't run for anything, and now I run 5Ks pretty regularly, and I do enjoy to run. I enjoy running, and when you have your balance taken from you, like I used to try to run, I would fall on my face, and I come back gashed, just like tore up. And now, I can run over rocky terrain. I run barefoot, out here in the mountains, and it's wonderful. Like just to feel free and to be able to run is probably the best thing in my life since I was diagnosed with MS, was just the freedom of running out here in the beautiful mountains here. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to hear it when I was at my worst. I wasn't trying to hear somebody say, "Oh, I think changing your diet can, fix everything." Until I did it, and then it's like, I wish I could tell everybody. I wish I could tell myself 10 years ago to have looked into my diet more.
Wow.
And never understood at all.
What a huge change that's been. Wow.
That's
Any
the
other
change.
message that you want to share? Because I know that there is somebody out there that is in chronic pain, that is dealing with health issues, that also affects the way you feel, not only feeling bad, like physically bad, but then you start to feel really depressed and really down.
Absolutely.
And it's like if you can just have a little bit of hope that things will get better, then you can do one thing.
I would say just try 3 weeks. It took me 3 weeks, and after it was literally like day 21. I told Nani I'm never going back. Because there was no burger or cheese or anything I ever ate in my life that was as good as I feel.
Wow.
And once I felt that, after 3 weeks of being just plant-based diet, it was not even a second thought. I felt good. And for 3 years now, I feel that good. So yeah, I would just tell people, just give it 3 weeks, and if
so
you
exciting.
hate the feeling after 3 weeks, then don't do it.
Yeah.
But that's all.
Well, congratulations on your health. It seems like you've really taken charge of your future, and you're going to get to be a part of your family's life. And you were a person that a lot of us worried about, we didn't know what's going to happen. And to see you today being healthy, being strong, have this vision of what you can do, that's so powerful. What a great message to share.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for making time to talk to us, and I hope if you're out there watching that if you know someone that's in chronic pain, that you'll share this with them and help give them a new idea as to what they could do to feel better.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.